Hey folks, welcome to another video in my Hammock Camping 101 series. For those of you who follow the channel know that I use 3 different types of hammocks when I go backpacking. So today I thought I'd create a video on those 3 different types of hammocks that I use, why I love each of those hammocks, and how I select a hammock for my backpacking trips. Let's get to it. The first hammock I'm going to show you is my Dutch Netless Hammock. And I love this hammock because it is so lightweight. I don't remember the exact ounces. I'll put it in the bottom of the video below. But it's under 10 ounces. So that's one of the reasons I like it so much, is because if I am doing big miles and I'm trying to keep my base weight down low, this is the hammock that I will consider because it is so lightweight. But there are a couple things that you need to consider when using a hammock like this. So one of the things that you'll have to consider when using a netless hammock is there's no bug net. So you need to think about the area that you're going to be backpacking in, and is it going to be buggy? So I'll typically use this hammock on backpacking trips like when I'm in Utah or Arizona, where it's very dry, warm environment. I'm not around a lot of water, which means I'm generally not around a lot of bugs. It works well for that. I've also found that it works good on some of my Colorado backpacking trips too. You know, if I'm at a high enough elevation, when that temperature drops at night, I've noticed that the bugs have gone away. So I've tried this hammock on some higher elevation backpacking trips that I've done in Colorado, and that has worked out fantastic as well. And even last year I used this in the Linville Gorge, where there's not a lot of water. I figured there'd be not a lot of bugs, and where we camped at there wasn't, and it worked out fantastic as well. So just consider how buggy your environment's going to be. So one of the things that I love about this Dutch Netless hammock is the material that it's made out of. It's called Cloud 71, I believe, and it's see-through. So not only is it extremely light, I love the fact when I lay in this hammock, it doesn't obstruct any part of my view, that I can see through the hammock. And that's really what I want when I go hammock camping, is to be able to view my entire environment and the views around my campsite. And so I love the fact that the Dutch Netless hammock is see-through. Another thing you'll need to consider with this type of hammock is this is bare bones, right? So typically you'll see I'll have a hammock organizer on my ridge line. I typically will have a shelf at the end there where I can put maybe my hat, my gloves, or something if I want to reach in the middle of the night, as well as a side sling that I use in the next hammock I'm going to show you, where it helps me organize a lot of my gear. So this hammock really is for just trying to keep my base weight as low as possible, especially if I'm doing big miles and I want to keep that base weight low. This is the type of hammock that I will want to use, depending again on whether I'm expecting a lot of bugs or not. I will definitely consider a hammock like this. So let me show you what I do with my backpack when I use my Dutch Netless hammock and I'm, need to find a place to put all my gear. So typically I like having a carabiner on my backpack, and I just have an extra one here. I keep hooked to the top, and then I'll just simply hook this towards the end of my continuous loop, and then I'll let it hang from there. That way it's off the ground in case it rains. I'll make sure if there's a tarp that the tarp will be hanging over it, keeps it dry, and that helps me organize a lot of my stuff in my backpack by just keeping it there all in one place. Well, that's my Dutch Netless hammock. Now let me show you my go-to hammock next, which is the Dutch Chameleon. So this is the Dutch Chameleon, and you can already see how it's different than the Netless Hammock. I have a bug net that's zipped onto here. I have an underquilt which is zipped onto here. I also have a side sling for organization, a hammock organizer, as well as a shelf. The thing I like about the Dutch Chameleon is everything is so customizable. So my bug net is zipped on here. So when I get to camp, I can simply, zip that off, and it actually becomes a little backrest for me when I sit in my hammock. So that's great whether I want the bug net or not. The Chameleon, you can also zip in a quilt. So Dutch has worked with Jacks Are Better, and they have designed a quilt that zips in to your hammock. And that's really great because it eliminates a lot of the cordage that you typically have to have for an underquilt. It eliminates all of the fine tuning that you may need to do for your underquilt. It's automatically built in, and that is fabulous. So I love the Dutch Chameleon because it is customizable, and I can adapt it to my backpacking trips. Whether I want a heavier quilt or light quilt, I can take that off. Whether I want my bug net or not, I can zip that off. It helps me organize things in camp with my side sling and my hammock organizer. So there are a lot of advantages of having the Dutch Chameleon, and that is why this is my go-to hammock when I go backpacking. So when I get into camp and hang my Dutch Chameleon, one of the first things I'll do is I'll zip back my bug net, and I'll push it back out of the way. That allows me easier access to my hammock, and even if I'm sitting in it, it provides a bit of a backstop as I'm laying back in my hammock, and that is great. And really the only thing I can say about the Dutch Chameleon that is a negative, at least compared to the Netless Hammock, is that it probably weighs twice as much. But that's with all the accessories. That's with my side sling, my hammock organizer, my shelf, my bug net, all that included. This is around 20 ounces, I believe. Again, I'll put it down below the exact weight. So it weighs probably twice as much, if not a little bit more. It's around a little over a pound, so it's competitive with tents, which is why I like this setup. I think this is a very competitive setup for extremely lightweight tents. Like my Z-Packs duplex tent weighs around a pound, and this competes with that. So that's really the only thing I can say that you need to be mindful with the Dutch Chameleon is the weight, and that'll depend on you, on what accessories that you want, and that it works for you. Well, that is the Dutch Chameleon, and that is my go-to hammock when I go on most of my backpacking trips. Now let me show you the third type of hammock that I use, another Dutch hammock, and it's called the Banya Bridge Hammock. Something that you need with a bridge hammock that you don't with the others are some poles. And these poles help extend the head and foot part of your hammock. Because what the bridge hammock does is that it gives you that perfect flat lay, which gives you the best sleep at night. So these things you see on the end, they're actually earplugs that I put on here, and I put them on there because I've heard that it can the exposed ends could tear your tarp, and I don't want that to happen. So I just created this little thing to put on the end. So I'll just that. Alright, that's the bridge hammock. The thing I love about the Banya bridge hammock is that it achieves that true flat lay. I don't have to lay diagonally with an asymmetrical hammock like the Netless and the Chameleon. This is a flat hammock. It's a bridge hammock, and it has the spread bars like we showed you at the head, and then also here at the end, and that's what helps you achieve that flat lay. So this is probably my most comfortable hammock that I sleep in because it is a flat lay, but it's heavy. It's probably over 2 pounds because you have the bars and a lot of the extra material. So it is a heavy hammock. So I take this on very select type of trips. And that will be, if I'm going car camping, like I did at Zion National Park last year. If I'm going to like one spot and I'm just going to camp there and do day hikes in that area, then I'll bring the Banya bridge hammock because I get my best night's sleep out of it. Or if I'm backpacking and maybe I'm only hiking in a few miles, and again I'm going to do day hikes throughout my trip, I might bring the Banya bridge hammock because I'm not carrying it around. I don't want to typically carry it on longer trips where I do a lot of bigger miles. It is heavier, so it's that compromise of weight versus comfort of sleep. Something else that I do different with the Banya bridge hammock is that I don't put an underquilt on it. You could. I typically put my Nemo tensor in here, and because I love that sleeping pad. That is an excellent sleeping pad. It's insulated and it fits perfectly into this hammock, which again, so it adds more weight to my setup whenever I'm doing this type of hammock camping. But this is a fabulous hammock, extremely comfortable, and I do get my best night's sleep out of it. Another thing that is not the greatest about this hammock is it's not the best for lounging. So you can definitely sit in the hammock, but it has 2 ridge lines, so I can't lean back as comfortably as I can in my Netless or my Chameleon. But typically if I'm car camping or only hiking in a few miles, I'll bring a camp chair. So again, I'm just adding more weight to my pack. So I'll use the Dutch Banya bridge hammock if my base weight is not a concern. If I'm not worried about how much weight I need to carry in. Because the hammock is heavier, I'll use that insulated pad which is heavier, and I'll typically bring a camp chair with me, which is obviously heavier than like a butt pad that I typically bring with me on my backpacking trips. But it is a great hammock for sleeping in. You get that true flat lay and extremely comfortable. Again, I get my best night's sleeps in this Banya bridge hammock, so it is definitely an option for me if I'm going car camping or on a short backpacking trip. So those are the 3 types of hammocks that I use on my backpacking trips. I typically go with the Dutch Netless hammock if I'm trying to keep my base weight really low and it's not going to be too buggy. More often than not, I'll use the Chameleon, and I'm able to customize that to the trip that I'm going on. Or if I'm just going car camping or on a short backpacking trip, then I'll bring the Banya bridge hammock because I sleep so well with that true flat lay. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching.